Jean-Jacques Rousseau, 1712–1778, was one of the most influential philosophers of the Enlightenment era. He was a political thinker, moral philosopher, writer, and composer whose ideas deeply shaped modern political theory, education, and views on human nature. Rousseau is best known for his works The Social Contract, Émile, and Discourse on the Origin of Inequality. His ideas contributed significantly to the French Revolution and to the development of modern democracy, human rights, and educational theory. Early life and birth. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was born on June 28, 1712 in Geneva, which was then an independent republic. His mother, Suzanne Bernard, died just days after his birth, an event that deeply affected Rousseau throughout his life. His father, Isaac Rousseau, was a watchmaker who introduced young Jean-Jacques to reading, especially classical literature and novels. This early exposure to books helped shape Rousseau's imagination and intellectual curiosity, but his childhood was unstable and emotionally difficult. Troubled childhood and education. Rousseau did not receive a formal education in the traditional sense. After his father was forced to leave Geneva following a legal dispute, Rousseau was sent to live with relatives and later apprenticed to an engraver. He found the apprenticeship harsh and humiliating, which caused him to run away from Geneva at the age of 16. This lack of structured education later influenced Rousseau's criticism of traditional schooling and inspired his ideas on natural education. Conversion and early wanderings. After leaving Geneva, Rousseau wandered through parts of France and Italy. During this time, he met Madame de Warens, a noblewoman who became his patron, mentor, and later his lover. Under her influence, Rousseau converted from Calvinism to Catholicism, although he would later return to Calvinism. Madame de Warens supported his education, introducing him to music, philosophy, and intellectual life. This period was crucial for his intellectual development and emotional growth. Career in music and early writing. Before becoming famous as a philosopher, Rousseau attempted to build a career as a musician and composer. He wrote musical pieces and even developed a new system of musical notation, though it was not widely adopted. His involvement with music strongly influenced his thinking about emotion, expression, and natural feeling, themes that later appeared in his philosophical works. During this period, Rousseau moved to Paris and began associating with Enlightenment thinkers. Association with the Enlightenment thinkers. In Paris, Rousseau became connected with prominent philosophers such as Denis Diderot, Voltaire, and D'Alembert. He contributed articles on music to Diderot's Encyclopédie. However, despite his association with Enlightenment thinkers, Rousseau often disagreed with them. Unlike others who celebrated reason and scientific progress, Rousseau believed that civilization and modern society had corrupted natural human goodness. Rise to fame and major works. Rousseau gained sudden fame in 1750 when he won an essay competition with his Discourse on the Sciences and Arts. In this work, he argued that progress in science and art had led to moral decline rather than improvement. He followed this with Discourse on the Origin of Inequality, 1755, where he claimed that private property and social institutions created inequality and injustice. These ideas challenged conventional Enlightenment optimism and made Rousseau both famous and controversial. Political philosophy. The Social Contract. In 1762, Rousseau published The Social Contract, one of the most important political works in history. In it, he introduced the concept of the general will, arguing that legitimate political authority comes from the collective will of the people. He famously wrote, "Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains." Rousseau believed that true freedom exists when individuals obey laws they have collectively created. This work later became a major influence on democratic theory and revolutionary movements, especially the French Revolution. Educational philosophy. Émile. In the same year, Rousseau published Émile, or On Education. This book presented a radical new theory of education based on natural development rather than strict discipline. Rousseau argued that children are naturally good and should be allowed to learn through experience and interaction with nature. Although widely influential, the book was considered dangerous by religious authorities and was banned in several countries. Exile and persecution. Because of the controversial ideas in The Social Contract and Émile, Rousseau faced persecution from both French and Swiss authorities. His books were burned, and he was forced to flee France. He lived in Switzerland, Prussia, and England during his years of exile. This period was marked by paranoia, isolation, and deteriorating mental health. Rousseau believed that many of his former friends had turned against him. Personal life and character. Rousseau lived a contradictory personal life. He advocated natural family values but placed all 5 of his own children in an orphanage. He valued sincerity and moral purity but often quarreled with friends and patrons. These contradictions are openly discussed in his autobiographical work Confessions, one of the earliest modern autobiographies. In this book, Rousseau attempted to reveal his inner self honestly, including his faults and emotional struggles. Final years and death. Rousseau spent his final years living quietly in France under the protection of supporters. Despite his isolation, he continued to write, including works on politics, autobiography, and philosophy. Jean-Jacques Rousseau died on July 2, 1778 at the age of 66. He was later honored as a national hero of France, and his remains were moved to the Pantheon in Paris during the French Revolution. Legacy and influence. Rousseau's influence on modern thought is immense. His ideas shaped democratic political systems, inspired revolutionary movements, and transformed educational theory. He influenced later philosophers such as Immanuel Kant and helped lay the foundations for Romanticism by emphasizing emotion, individuality, and nature. Despite criticism and controversy, Rousseau remains one of the most important figures in Western intellectual history.